everyone to this hot live podcast. Italy is one of the biggest prices in European fintech and one of the hardest doors to get through. 4.9 million small businesses and 3 billion euro financing gap exists, and that's quietly being broken by the people who have built today. We've got finmid and myPOS who are going live with an embedded lending platform for 90,000 merchants there. And I've got Max Schertl, co-founder and CEO of finmid with us, as well as, of course, Alessandro from myPOS. Guys, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So, first and foremost, I
Thanks for
want to
having us.
ask you. Yeah, likewise, Max. We have a little bit of delay, so at times we might be coordinated here. Let me ask you first and foremost, we're all headed to Italy for holidays these days. So tell me, why is Italy 1,000 more X than just a place for holidaying?
Yeah, good question. But Italy somehow can be labeled as a complex market because can be considered fragmented, cash heavy, maybe slow to digitalize. But at the same time, we've seen some regulatory changes that speed up this the payment adoption, as well as the fact that merchants are sometimes customers and they are all being affected by digitalization, by the big digital platform that set the bar for a specific user experience. So they expect payment to be easy. Both when they are a merchant, they want to get the settlement fast, they want to accept mobile and wearable, as well as when they are consumers and they are doing the same. So I think there is a big opportunity because again, there is a lot of differences. We have different nuances of merchant in a big cities or in small towns, very different needs and also very different approach. For the tech-savvy one, to the very old-fashioned restaurant owners, store owners that want something, very practical.
Yeah. Guys, I wanted to ask you a wide question about Italy before we went into exactly what you do, but I can hear that your answer was very contextual to what you do. So let's just make sure that everyone understands exactly what is myPOS, what is finmid, and why are you partnering now? So if we start with myPOS, go, Alessandro.
Yes, so myPOS has a mission of providing to merchants, could be retailers, food and beverage, restaurants, or professionals, the solution for getting payments, collecting payments, having a bank account, a card. So it's helping these merchants with the day-to-day, finance needs they have. And the goal for us is to give this what I call it's a warm myPOS hug. So when they enter into the myPOS ecosystem, they can get at the end of the day a business in a box made of these financial services that they are basically built to support their own day-to-day operations.
And tell me really quickly, Alessandro, founding story of myPOS.
Yeah, so myPOS started in Bulgaria, so was founded by a Bulgarian entrepreneur. This company developed his own offering that was made of e-POS payment terminals, e-money accounts, and cards all across Europe with a very, let's say, consistent and built in-house model, which was one of the key factors of the speed of this company. In 2024, it has been acquired by Advent, who changed some of the strategic path of this company by, try to inject new ideas, and that's why we are here now.
Beautiful. Max, the same thing for finmid.
Yeah, we provide infrastructure that enables platforms like myPOS to provide credit solutions for their customers. I think Alessandro said you want to provide everything that a business needs to run its business, and as part of that, it's access to capital. So we help myPOS ensure that the businesses that use myPOS can access capital. And we do that across really a lot of industries with PSPs like myPOS, but also other players really all across of Europe in 30 countries today.
And then let me ask both of you to help me understand the Italian market as a non-Italian. Tell me a bit about, as you said before, many considered fractured fragmented, but you don't necessarily have to think of it as such if you just approach it in the right way. I'd love to understand a bit how should we understand adoption readiness for technology in general in the population of Italy and so on?
Yeah, I think in general,
Yeah,
yeah,
Now go,
I
Alessandro.
think,
You're the native
okay.
here.
Okay. So, no, as I said, people are now understands the benefit of adopting the technology. Now we are talking about payments and how we can how this trend is evolving. So on one side, their day-to-day, experience changed thanks to the digital platform on one end, and on the other side, as you may know, Italy has a slightly a small problem of tax evasion. So in general, these solutions are also pushed by the government in order to have a better control of what is happening. So we need also to consider that, again, there's a lot of small businesses that on one side that have specific needs. They have their own experience as a consumer when we talk about digital assets. But on the other hand, we have the regulator that since 2020 they changed a lot, many rules from, I don't know, tax deduction for medical expenses in 2020, the mandatory adoption of the terminal in 2022, and so on and so forth. This moved from an 80% share of cash, 70, depending on the different stats, to a higher share of digital payments compared with cash last year. So digital payments surpassed it. So on one hand, this was driven by regulatory changes, but merchants now understand the benefits of this and not just the cost. And on the other hand, the market has been more crispy, and so more competition, more solution that makes also these services more accessible for all these small and medium enterprises.
Max, I'd love to hear how you would contrast the Italian market to all the other markets you're active in.
Yeah, if I look at Italy, right, what do I see? I see a market that's dominated by two very large banks from a financial services perspective. Intesa and UniCredit, I think they cover around about 35% of the Italian market. So you have very few very dominant players. And at the same time, if you look at the business landscape, I believe 95% of Italian businesses are micro enterprises. They have less than 10 people working in the business, in the company, right? And if you think about how well very large banks are placed to address the demand of small businesses, it's just a little bit difficult, right? If I look at Italy, you see strong demand for access to capital, and you see really challenges in accessing capital for many different reasons. Small businesses are really expensive to acquire, they're very hard to underwrite. How do I form an opinion on a five-person business in the south of Italy or somewhere in the middle of Italy? It is very challenging if you're a bank. Whereas if you're somebody like Alessandro, right, and you understand who the business is actually selling to on a day-to-day basis, how revenue is coming in, etc., then you can really change that and ultimately deliver better financial products, in this case, lending products to businesses that today are served either not at all or not really very well. And I think Italy really is a pretty extreme example of dominance by few and demand by a lot of fragmented businesses.
I'd love to ask you, Alessandro, if, as you said, 49 million businesses, they're obviously not unbanked. They all have banks. So I'd love to understand from you, what is it that you see that these, we got the names of the two major players, but the existing offerings in general, what is it that they have done or lack to do so badly that a 48-hour like yours inside a card terminal is the breakthrough?
I think it's also part of how the overall banking business evolved, and also part it's related to their tech stack behind that, the mainframe and all the updates that are needed to give to a customer an experience that should be, up to date. So in general, the opportunity is not only related to the credit access, but it's also the how they can access credit. So they don't start with something blank, don't know what to do, providing tons of paperwork, finding a branch that is, that is sometimes a struggle to serve you because they have very they don't cut corners sometimes you need to apply certain rules or certain checks. So for these businesses that are many times involved in day-to-day activities, so the owners maybe is the one that dealing with customer, with suppliers, with paperwork, with cash flow, you don't have time. And the fact that you probably can have access on your digital app, on your website, within a partner that you trust, because at the end of the day, the approach of myPOS is building trust with their customers, with the account, with the card, with the payment terminal. So this is something that is in line with our mission. So providing this access in a easier way, already somehow with a prepared proposal for them that must be clear and that fits for their need. The data we have, the data we are able to collect in terms of payment inbound and the overall cash flow gives us also the visibility to say, okay, probably this could be the right proposal for you, but these are the terms and you see them in advance. You know exactly what's going to happen.
Max, I want to ask you before we close, I'm going to take it to you as well as Alessandro, but I'd love to ask both of you, what would you say that you've learned from cracking Italy that other fintechs that are tuning in today should learn, and what should they take away from what you've learned there?
Yeah, I would say like what we've seen is Italy is a market that's quite protectionist of the status quo. I think that's what ultimately creates the opportunity that we're all seeing. And it means you just have to work a little bit harder with local regulations, with how the demand is structured, with how you deal with data, in the relevant formats. Again, like if I look at it, everybody says Italy is such a great opportunity, and yet so few invest there and play. It is worth the effort, but you probably need to spend maybe a little bit more time understanding what it requires to actually do it, so you don't end up giving up after being halfway there.
Yeah.
And,
Go ahead,
and
Al.
on my side, in general, you need to localize your proposition. So it's not just translating the website, but review your distribution channels that must fit with the customer segment you're looking for. Could be the online, could be consultants, could be field sales, because you need that certain level of trust since the acquisition in order to prove that you are there just to stay and to serve them. And I would say, on the other hand, the proposal needs to be extremely practical. So the proposal needs to be clear, fit their needs. I don't know, maybe it can be common sense, but sometimes this means also executing this proposal in that way. For example, for us, working with finmid was the way to deliver the experience that we want to deliver. So it's not just what we are, the partner you're choosing for the service, but the way you are executing this partnership that makes sense or not. And the last is investing in trust. So the customer support and what happened after needs to know the customer need to speak Italian and needs to treat the customer in a way that an Italian customer expects to be, like with some degree of flexibility. You should, cut some corners.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today, and congrats on the massive success in Italy. I know that the rest of Europe and the Southern European part, of course, should pay big attention to what you're doing. Alessandro, Max, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.